Hello, and welcome back to another analysis of Deadlock Hero Archetypes. As mentioned previously, Deadlock is a game that takes many classic literary archetypes and sort of flips them on their head in very new and interesting ways. Today's archetype that we're going to be talking about is...
Sun is shining, Bebop's dead, I'm about to summon an elder god, boom.
Man vs. Machine, or is also sometimes referred to as Man vs. Technology, is one of the most popular themes of conflict in literature. Oftentimes in these stories, we see our protagonist, the best of the best, faced with the new best, the machine. It's stronger, it's faster, and most importantly of all, it never gets tired. It does everything that our protagonist does, but better. However, in these stories, our protagonist always comes on top over the machine because they have something that the machine does not: their humanity. This humanity allows our protagonist to go beyond the limitations of the machine, eventually overpowering them because they have something that the machine can never replicate, and that is the want and the desire to achieve this goal. In many man vs. machine stories, the avenue in which the two come in contact happens commonly in a few different ways. Sometimes, the machine is introduced into the man's life as a way to make his work easier or replace him altogether. In some other instances, the machine is sent to destroy the human at all costs. The thing that all of these man vs. machine stories have in common is that we see the protagonist, the man, faced against this machine that has a goal and one goal only, and our protagonist has to overcome the machine and defeat him. This brings us to where the man meets the machine in Deadlock. In Deadlock, our man vs. machine conflict starts at the Bear Pit, an underground fighting club. Most of what we know about the Bear Pit comes from voice lines spoken by Lash and Bebop respectively, but from what we know, we can gather that Jacob Lash was the previous reigning champion of the Bear Pit, until he fought Bebop and lost one time. Lash often talks about his conquests in the Bear Pit, even going as far to say that he's had to change his fighting style so that he doesn't kill his opponent too quickly. Lash is filled with confidence in his ability to fight, so much so that other Deadlock heroes go as far to call him arrogant, and many of them call him an asshole. This is so ingrained in Lash's personality and his character that his only line in his background is that Jacob Lash is an asshole. With this immense amount of confidence, we can see how losing one time would have such an effect on him. This loss to Bebop essentially sealed the two to be mortal enemies, giving our man his machine. With that, let's look at the man in our man vs. machine story. From what we can gather, Lash is a seasoned fighter in the Bear Pit. It's pretty much his entire life. He doesn't just consider himself a pit fighter, he considers himself the champion of pit fighting. He even goes as far to call himself God's gift to combat. He holds his integrity for fighting so high that he wasn't even willing to take a dive in one of his fights. It's safe to say that fighting is his life. Unfortunately, to the many, many people who don't like Lash, his arrogance is somewhat justified. That was until Bebop, the machine, and our man vs. machine conflict came along. Bebop is the creation of a one Miss Shelley Fisher, a widowed junkyard worker who created Bebop to help her with labor around the junkyard in her old age. But Bebop ended up being more than just a piece of machinery made to help her around the junkyard. While Bebop does help her with day-to-day tasks, at night, they listen to jazz and keep each other company. In the unreleased Geist visual novel, we can even see him baking a pie for Miss Shelley. This is presumably where his weapon name comes from, Humble Pie. To Miss Shelley, Bebop is the son that she never had, and in Miss Shelley's old age, she eventually fell ill. Due to this, her creation and son Bebop started to fight in the Bear Pit to earn money to pay for her medicine. Bebop's only motivation for fighting the Bear Pit is to make money to help Miss Shelley, having no interest in fighting otherwise. Bebop also states that his reason for partaking in the ritual is to save Miss Shelley's life. He even goes as far to say that if he's able to summon the patron, he'd retire from fighting in the Bear Pit altogether. During Bebop's career as a pit fighter, he eventually faced off against Lash, and thus caused Lash and Bebop's rivalry. According to a conversation with Wraith, Lash lost to Bebop one time, effectively starting their rivalry. Lash and Bebop hate each other We can see this a lot in their voice lines, as they mention each other quite a bit. Some characters that don't like each other will sometimes have quips to say when eliminating each other, but Lash and Bebop will mention each other completely independently of each other. They'll both reference each other in select and unselect lines, both of which, on success, will sometimes even say, "Do you see me now?" to the other, even if they aren't there. Bebop and Lash are such strong parallels of each other, doing similar things in completely opposite ways. Lash has a ground slam that he can pull people to the ground with, and Bebop has an uppercut that launches people into the air. To close the distance with an opponent, Lash will sometimes propel himself at them with his grapple, while Bebop will take the opposite approach and pull them towards him with his grapple arm. This parallel in their gameplay is somewhat representative of their in-lore rivalry. Two individuals in the same fighting ring, but for completely opposite reasons. One being this calculated machine built for the purpose of fighting and to win, and the other driven by their humanity to fight till their last breath. But unlike most man vs. machine stories, the traits typically attributed with the man and the machine don't line up with their Deadlock counterparts and are instead flipped. In typical man vs. machine, it's our human who's driven by their humanity, and the manufactured robot that is this cold, unfeeling machine with only one purpose. But in Deadlock, these traits are switched. Lash very rarely shows any humanity, being disliked by most of the cast for his personality and treating very few people with respect. So much so, he even has a whole section on his wiki for nicknames that he gives people because he just can't bother to learn people's names. He has more in common with the cold, calculated machines that are built with a purpose and will stop at nothing to accomplish it. Bebop, on the other hand, is only driven by his humanitarian desire to save his creator. Because to Bebop, she's more than just his creator. She's his mother. Like mentioned previously, in his lore, he's even referred to as the son that she was never able to have. Many of the people that Bebop interacts with in the ritual show compassion for Miss Shelley, wishing Bebop and her well. Some of which even offering to help take care of her. Bebop has no interest in fighting, other than as a means of paying for Miss Shelley's care. He goes as far to say that he'd probably retire when she's cured. In Deadlock's adaptation of Man vs. Machine, we see this machine driven by humanity and empathy that we typically only see in human characters, standing up to and defeating this previously unstoppable fighting force with the cold unfeelingness of a machine in the body of a man. Thank you for watching this Deadlock video essay, and I hope you all really enjoyed it. I really appreciate the turnout that the last one had, as I worked really hard on it. I have received a lot of really nice comments and a lot of really good feedback that I tried my best to implement in this video. I plan on making these videos about every 2 weeks, with the exception of the next one, which will take 3, because I'm going to be on spring break for one of those weeks. I have it planned out for which characters I want to do for the next couple of Archetype videos, and then in addition to the Archetype series, I want to do a side series of just, in general, deep dives on Deadlock characters that don't fit in the Archetype series and just general lore stuff. So, yeah, look forward to that. And thanks again for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed it.